Despite the fact that Football Now and Then is definitely not aimed at me in terms of the subject matter, there were elements of this that I quite enjoyed. This was released originally in 1953. It is, of course, a Disney cartoon directed by Jack Kinney, and we have Dennis Day voicing the grandpa. I'm not sure who voices the child in this. If you know who that is, please let me know. I'd be very keen to find that out. But it starts off with a grandchild talking about what he considers to be the best football team of all time, and his grandfather is like, no, no, no. Your modern day football teams are nowhere near as good as the football players we used to have back in the day. And we then get to see this football match where older football players, not necessarily older in age, but traditional football players from back in this grandpa's day, play a game against more contemporary football players of what would have then been the 50s. And I think that's an interesting concept, actually. Imagine if you pitched, say, a tennis star from the 1920s with somebody who played tennis today. Would they actually be up to the same standard because of the level of training and the equipment available to assist with training and practice these days? Would they actually be equally as good? I don't know. And of course, this pitches that question as well of would footballers who were at the top of their game back then be in the same league as footballers at the top of the game today? On the surface, I don't care about football. I don't care about sports at all. This is obviously American football, needless to say. And that's something I know next to nothing about. So there were a lot of things in this that I just did not understand and could not follow. But that's obviously not the fault of the cartoon. That's me not knowing anything about the subject matter. But there were bits of animation that I really liked. There were some characters who kind of reminded me of Sword in the Stone. Grandpa himself as well. There was just something about him that kind of reminded me of Sword in the Stone. I'm not sure what it was. I think it's kind of the Merlin and Arthur set up between the grandpa and the grandchild. I don't know if that was intentional or not, though. I can't imagine it was. But there were bits of animation, like when the players were all in a steam room, each in their little steam pod. I thought that was, rather delightfully animated. There are bits of things in this that I did enjoy. So even if, like me, you're thinking it's about football, why would I want to watch it? Give it a watch because the narrative structure is very pleasing. The actual concept of it is quite fascinating. There are some great bits of animation, but I am well aware that I would probably have gotten more out of it if I was a football fan. But I'm not, and that's absolutely fine. That's not the cartoon's fault. It's actually just pretty great that I could still enjoy quite a bit of it, even though I couldn't care about football. And that's definitely something that works in his credit. Football Now and Then is obviously never going to be my favourite Disney cartoon, but it was still pretty enjoyable.